You want to frame your pastels in a professional and sharp manner. In this video, I will show you how to use professional methods, professional and archival tools to frame your pastels. Follow me. There's more than one Casey that can do an unboxing. My teenage daughter is fond of pop figures, and so she pointed this one out to me. Here he is, the famous Bob Ross. He's going to go next to my studio painting transformer. Make your framing choices based on your personal aesthetic, the needs of your patron, or the needs of your exhibition space. Looking at some framing choices. This was an older frame style that we did when we did our own joinery, my wife Lori and I. So this hard maple, very hardwood joinery. In those days we liked to experiment with colored mats. I would say that after exhibiting, as long as I have the choice of a white mat or an off-white mat, really is your best choice, because it doesn't draw as much attention to itself, but creates the right window to look into your painting. However, if a patron has another desire, or if there really is a strong need for that colored mat, you know, rock and roll, knock yourself out. I paint in a modernist style, and it's a contemporary style. Here's a contemporary black molding, which is flat in profile, and it is a matte type of black rather than a gloss black. The use of a double mat, relatively wide because of our contemporary time. We did the cut ourselves. I've been made aware recently that you cannot compete with the professional framer who has a computerized cutter, and so I may in the future trade money for time and energy, and have the mats cut outsourced. However, oftentimes when you're when you're shipping, or if work is going to be shipped or moved a lot, you want to avoid a mat because of the possibility of dusting. Again, make an aesthetic choice. Some artworks need a mat, and I recently shipped a work to near Boston, Massachusetts, which I went ahead and had put a mat on because the artwork really needed that mat. In many instances with exhibitions now, we're choosing no mat. The art is not up against the glass. We're using a spacer. I'll show you that later as I go step by step through the process of framing art. I'm going to show you the framing of this piece and a couple of other pieces just like it. French gold, antique white wood liner, and gold fillet. And this is True View Museum glass, which has less reflection. And so it provides a real sharp look and a very professional look. Another option, instead of using the black frame, you might choose another color or a warm brown frame, because I felt that this artwork was complemented by, or rather was highlighted, the colors within and the color of the frame working together. It's been to a couple exhibits. I think it was somewhere, and then it was in Portland, Maine, and then it was in Seattle, Washington, so there's always a document on the back. The other bling I'm going to show you and teach you about that. Meet your design needs first as the artist. Make an aesthetic choice based on what you feel uh, appears correct and appears right and beautiful, professional and sharp. I've marked my frame opening size. I'm going to use the Logan mat cutter to cut this piece of 3/16 foam core as the backing for the painting, for the whole framing, what I call the frame sandwich. Make sure I have an adequate blade. It's good to change blades frequently. Really easy. Pre-cut 3/16 inch foam core. Now I'm going to look in my flat file. We're going to square up the painting. My framer always complains that I don't make my art square, and she's right. Where's my frame? Here it is. Now we're going to check the fit on this frame. Mostly concerned about how it fits at her head. Well, I'll make hinges using professional framers tape, which is archival. Since there's enough length there, I'll triple up, make 3 hinges. There is not much space here because of the design of the frame. If I were framing this with a mat, I would have lots of space here to work with, but this has a tight tolerance. Cuddle stick. You've got to have your tape attached very securely, because if it releases and your painting flops down to the bottom of the frame, it's embarrassing. However, I want to limit how much color I pick up, so I have enough room there to avoid picking up the color. So even though there isn't much room here, there is still a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. Some people skip this step, but I like it to be attached. Okay. There might be some visual line of sight underneath, and I want to be concerned with that. Sounds like I have a frog in my throat. Sorry about that. Really secure it with a cobblebone. we had the experience of doing this early in our career, Lori and I, and the nice photographer who bought my framed work got back to us on it. He said, "Yeah, your tape released, and I reframed it, and here's what you do." It was life lessons from professionals. I marked the frames so that I know which piece of glass. I'm doing 3 of these, 4 actually. This is a very expensive museum glass by TrueView. We have white gloves, but I'm just going to not touch the glass. I see some marks there, so I'm going to make sure that those marks are on the outside. Canned air is the preferred way to clean. You're not supposed to use tissue, so I am. I'm just using it really lightly. I'm not rubbing. You're supposed to use cotton. Cotton and water, and no Windex. You can use a special cleaning type of Windex called pink. Actually, as you can use pink on anything except the museum. On museum, you just want to use water and elbow grease. That's explained in the documents, and good galleries and museums know this. It's good to tell your patrons don't use Windex on museum glass. Okay, I think the interior is clean. Here's a product that's made in Hood River, Oregon, so it's not very far from me. Frame Tech, and this is called Econospace. It has a removable self-adhesive. This is not so large that I can't just use Econospace. And what it's going to do is it's going to get the art sandwich off of the glass. Oops. Don't want to have it tacked down in the wrong place, or else I have a booger getting the glass clean. Thank you, Mr. Econospace, Mr. FrameTech. Brilliant material. Now I'll do the other 3 sides. I'll pre-cut them and the Econospace is in place. Looks fairly clean. Okay. Guess what I have to do now? I have to sign the artwork before it goes in. Typically, I don't sign the artwork because if I'm taking photos of it and then I enter it into a jury, I don't want my name on there so the jury can be blind in its selection. So right as I'm framing, I have to make sure that I don't forget to put the signature on. I want to be as far away from the edge as possible because I know there's some overlap. Again, I don't want to do any damage to the design of the painting. I want to complement the design of the painting. You know, I have something that Wolf Kahn will never have. An L in his name. Can't see it. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, placing is a booger. Trying to protect the surface of my gold frame. I don't want to put it on this plastic table. So I put down a cloth. Still not sure it's clean. Yeah, having trouble with clean because of the filming, etc. Because the glass is not tacked in, I will have to drop the picture in upside down. There's no wider sides, so I'm okay as far as direction. Now, I used to having these clamp straps on the side. Okay, pushing in with my thumbs, check. Head looks okay. I'm worried about her head. I'm so-so about the bottom and top, so I'm close enough. Also, I'm looking for debris. Don't see any debris. And so, first thing I wish to do is drive a couple of brads. Now, I use a brad driver. We have somewhere in the studio, framing studio, we have one of those point drivers. Bam, bam, bam. And all that's doing is shocking my pastel onto the glass. And so instead of using the point driver, which is fine for a watercolor or a photograph, we use a nice gentle brad driver. Push down. Oops. Push the brad down. Okay, so I'm just going to tack it on 2 or 3 sides, and then I'm going to check again, make sure that my art still looks clean, the glass still looks clean, and have a real close look to make sure that I like the placement of the art. On my paintings, the edges are every bit as important as the middle, and so how they're cropped is critical. And I'm constantly fighting to make sure that my framing looks right, that it doesn't hurt the margins of the painting. Okay, that's enough so that I can turn it up. It won't fall out. Okay, so how do I feel? No debris. Oh, I like it. So I'm going to finish driving brads. Sometimes you get all the brads driven. You'll have to take the whole thing apart because there's dust or some other mistake, or you put it in upside down or whatever. I use a black backing paper instead of the brown craft looking paper because I just feel that brown craft paper on the back of a fine art painting is not the world's best presentation. And the black provides just that much more style. So I've sized it. ATG gun is archival glue. Makes the application so easy. Go as close to the edge as possible, but I don't want glue, gum coming off the outside. There's a matte side and a glossy side, but I just choose the side that looks the cleanest. I want to get the position just right so I don't have to reposition it. We used to spray it with water after we put on the paper because when it dries it becomes drum tight. It makes a nice presentation, but over the years we've found steps that we can eliminate to save time, especially when you're doing too many for a show. For instance, when we used to do art fairs, we had to do 40 or 50 for a show over the course of a couple months. But anyway, I don't make it drum tight anymore, and I do like the presentation I have. Let's talk about hardware a little bit. You want a strap hanger that's large enough, heavy duty enough to do the job, but you want to make a wise decision on your strap hanger. This one is adequate. This one is a little bit too big. I really wish I had one in between, but frames aren't as heavy as you might think, even with glass. I never use the evil eye bolt. The eye, when you use an eye, oftentimes even in a professional environment when people are hanging an exhibit, you'll have a group of volunteers because it's a lot of work and the volunteers don't know, and they'll wind up, when they remove them from the wall, they'll stack them up against the wall, one in front of the other, and that eye bolt will dig into the frame of the guy behind it, and then you'll get your artwork back and there'll be a dimple in the frame. And you know, the frame did its task, which was to protect the artwork, but you have now to discard that frame and reframe it. It isn't so much the money of the framing, it's the time involved, the labor. So, and then the other thing on the same, by the same token, here's a round head. And here's a flathead. So I use a flathead screw for the same reason that I don't want that round button screw. I don't want the round button screw to have an opportunity to reach out and dig into the frame of the guy in front of me. So remember, we have pastels and we don't want to shock load. We don't want to shock, but I will get a start for the hole. Measure twice, cry once. Late in the day, if my hands are getting a little shaky, that means it's time to take a break. I'll show you how I start. Strap hangers also are one-sided, so this strap hanger is flat on this side and it has a profile on the top side, so you don't want the profile down because then you have a lever. You want the flat side down. This one is neutral, so it doesn't matter. Well, I'm not happy with that, so I'm going to go with the large strap hanger. I don't know where my in-between ones are, but we're going to choose the large strap hanger. Double check my screws, make sure that they aren't so deep that they're going to cut through and dimple the front of the profile wood. These are just right. Okay, I need to go get another strap hanger, and I need to cope another hole. You know, if you're framing for a house that has picture rail molding, there's a different position for where you put the wire. But in most instances, you want the wire a third of the way down because it will hang just right. And venues care, exhibits care. That you do a professional job. If you are framing 40 or 50 or a dozen works for an event, you'll want an electric screwdriver. But I'm only doing 4, and I can't find the electric screwdriver that has power, so I'm okay for now. I'll just use the old-fashioned kind. The correct wire is a coated wire, a plastic coated wire, because if you use the cheapest wire, your patrons have an opportunity to cut their fingers, and cutting your finger on a tip on a wire is really aggravating. So good wire is coated wire. Measure back to about a third. Add a third. There's a certain knot you want to tie, because if your framing releases, it's a big mess. And if you can't remember the knot to tie, there's an illustration on the side of some of the wire. Okay, so I want to make sure my fit is good. That's about right. Okay, so tying the knot. Go down through the hole. Rabbit goes down through the hole. Over the top. Up through the hole to form this type of hitch. Make the hitch large so that you can see it. Snug it. Draw it across. One bend is over the standing piece, and then the working piece is over the bend. Now we're going to wrap. Do a fairly snug wrap all the way. Make sure you have enough working left over that it It'd take a long time for that to undo. Okay, we've put the frosting on the cake. Now it's time to put the icing, design, and light the candles. I have my own particular protocol for what goes on the back of my paintings. However, you want to always check with the gallery or with the exhibition to find out what their requirements are. I recall that the requirement on this gallery exhibit is full details, my name, title, and price. So I think I'll probably have to type or print out rather that information. But I always put the title on the back of the nice black with some light colored pen. White is the best. You could use gold or silver, a gel pen if that's what you have, or paint pen. Check it. Yeah. Yeah, so that test is a good mark. So back to the icing on the cake. Use of bumpers, felt bumpers. Use of an adequate strap with a coated wire. And then you want your title, no quotation marks. And then you want your information, which is, this is the back of the last business card I had. And then I bought some cards from Moo, and they insisted that I get these free stickers or inexpensive stickers. So just a little bit of added bling on the outside of the frame. And professional look. The only thing left to do is to meet the gallery's requirement of some kind of document with a price. I'll see you on the flip side. Ciao.